Professional basketball is a physical game that at times can be merciless. Injuries and tragedies have derailed many promising careers, but there are some what-ifs that stand out above the pack. Let's look at the top 10 players whose careers will have us forever questioning, what if?
Double team, triple team, and hope that he missed.
Everybody would tell you, play like Michael, meaning every time he got the ball, you knew he was going to score. And he was the beast. He was literally going to save the Celtics.
I never saw a guy 6'8" shoot a jump shot like that then or since. And those clips, and you heard Jay Billis talk about it, it was like art.
Len Bias. Of all the names on this list, the unreached potential of Len Bias is without a doubt the most tragic. Bias, a Maryland native, was a star player for the University of Maryland, where he was an explosive scorer and athlete. NBA scouts and fans alike were excited at the prospect of Bias being a similar player to Michael Jordan, who had been drafted 2 years earlier in 1984. Bias was drafted second overall by the Boston Celtics in the 1986 NBA draft, and appeared to be a surefire bet as an explosive future star. Tragically, Bias never got a chance to play in the NBA, passing away from a cocaine overdose only 2 days after he was drafted. He left behind plenty of questions, not the least of which what he could have been as an NBA player. Could he have been an MVP like Michael Jordan, playing alongside Larry Bird and leading the Celtics to another dynasty?
He's simply one of the best to ever put on a basketball uniform.
Everyone all the time that if Sabonis was in the NBA, he'd be the best player possibly ever.
He was the guy that everyone said, I wish we could have seen him play in the NBA when he was the height of his career.
Arvydas Sabonis. Lithuanian big man Arvydas Sabonis was a trailblazer who was ahead of his time, but he is yet another great injury-riddled player. After a successful 14-year European career during the reign of the Soviet Union, Sabonis was finally able to take his talents to the NBA in 1995. He had been drafted by Portland in the 1986 NBA draft, which included players like Dennis Rodman, Mark Price, and Jeff Hornacek. However, by the time Sabonis was able to move over to the NBA, he had suffered from a series of knee and Achilles tendon injuries that had sapped him of much of his mobility. At 30 years old, Sabonis still played well in the NBA, being known for his incredible passing and shooting abilities for a big man. However, it's often speculated that if Sabonis had played in the NBA during his prime, he could have even been able to lead the Blazers on championship runs alongside others like Clyde Drexler, and could maybe have been an MVP in the mold of Nikola Jokic.
Looked up, I'm like, oh my God, this man is huge.
The first big man superstar.
Had never been any big man quite like Ralph Sampson.
Ralph Sampson. There have been a few players in NBA history as naturally gifted as Ralph Sampson. Standing at 7 feet 4 inches tall, Samson dominated in college for the University of Virginia and was drafted first overall by the Houston Rockets in a class that also included Clyde Drexler, Dale Ellis, and Jeff Malone. Expected to change how the center position was played due to his versatile abilities as a shooter, rebounder, and athlete, Samson lived up to the hype in his first few seasons. Alongside fellow 7-footer Hakeem Olajuwon, Samson's Rockets dominated, with both being named to All-Star teams while Samson won the 1983-84 Rookie of the Year award. Samson even won the All-Star Game MVP award in one of his 4 career appearances. Together, Olajuwon and Samson led the Rockets to an NBA Finals berth in 1986, while the Rockets, led by Samson, looked like the new monsters on the block. As described by Celtics coach K.C. Jones, a 1987 knee injury destroyed that bright future. As it is for many big men, injury proved to be difficult for Samson to overcome, and he was never the same dynamic athlete or player in the years that followed.
I'm like, we could win a championship. Like, for the first time in my life, playing with him, I was like, we could win a championship. He was that good. Right.
If Oden was healthy, that you would still look at him as a long-term investment better than Durant?
Yes.
I would.
Greg Oden. Yet another Portland player whose career was hampered by injuries is Greg Oden, hailed as the next big thing as the first overall pick in 2007 for the Trailblazers. One pick ahead of future Hall of Famer Kevin Durant, Oden's career never really got off the ground. While his skills as a physical and imposing big man were evident when he was on the court, Oden missed significant amounts of time during the 5 seasons with the Trailblazers due to various knee injuries. In fact, he only played 82 total games for Portland before being released as one of the game's biggest busts. Still, given Oden's undeniable skill, the question remains as to whether he would have been able to become a star just like Durant if not for the injuries. Just imagine a healthy Roy and Oden together. Had then been the case, there might have been a dynasty in Portland.
I know what imprint he made on the city and the franchise and how important he was to the Blazers.
He's probably the best player I've ever played against. To me, he's the best shooting guard. Not on defense now. His defense is kind of suspect, but he's the best player I played against.
Brandon Roy. Unlike most star basketball players of the modern era, Brandon Roy had a 4-year college career at the University of Washington. Roy was drafted by the Portland Trailblazers in the same class as fellow Blazer LaMarcus Aldridge. Roy outclassed Aldridge in year 1, riding his strong scoring ability to Rookie of the Year honors. Roy continued his slashing and sharpshooting scoring abilities in the next few seasons, making several All-NBA teams and all 3 All-Star game appearances along the way. However, he started to struggle with cartilage deterioration in his knees in 2010 to 2011, which almost immediately forced Roy to retire from the NBA only 5 seasons in, though he would attempt a comeback with the Timberwolves after a short break. Without the injury, could Roy have led the Trailblazers to an NBA title and maybe even have contended for the MVP award?
I feel like he would have had a career like Kobe, if he didn't get hurt early.
Yeah, for sure.
He got hurt in 2009.
This dude was unbelievable, man. How so? Because he can do everything. I mean,
He got it like that?
Yeah, but slap in the face, man. For that man not to be on the top 75, you can't name 75 players better than Tracy McGrady, man.
Tracy McGrady. Better known as T-Mac, he soared into the basketball world on the heels of a high-flying prep career and incredible dunking ability. Drafted 9th overall by the Toronto Raptors in a class that was headlined by Tim Duncan and Chauncey Billups, T-Mac broke out several years later after moving to Orlando. With Orlando, McGrady became one of the best scorers and overall players in the league, winning 2 scoring titles with the Magic, including 32.1 points per game in the 2002-03 season. McGrady also made a total of 7 appearances in the All-Star Game and on all NBA teams. Traded to the Rockets to play alongside Yao Ming after his second scoring title, McGrady continued his high-scoring ways in his first year with Houston before his career was derailed by back injuries. From then on, McGrady struggled to get on the court, ultimately depressing his total scoring numbers. If not for those injuries, we might be talking about T-Mac as a top 5 scorer in league history.
I've never coached a better player, I've never coached a better competitor, and I've never coached a better person.
And just some of the stuff he had done, you're like, wow, man, this guy is like a special player. How much does he have left?
Every game was a special game because we didn't know he was going to be broke down the next game. But that year he played 80 games and we won a lot of them, because of him.
Bill Walton. When UCLA stalwart Bill Walton was drafted 1st overall by the Portland Trailblazers in 1974, expectations were as large as the big man himself. Even in a draft class with several other Hall of Famers like Bobby Jones and Keith Wilkes, Walton stands out. His early career with Portland was highlighted by great deals of success, including an NBA championship and a Finals MVP award, even while dealing with chronic foot injuries. Legendary coach Gene Shue lauded Walton's skills, calling him the best player for a big man who ever played the game of basketball. Walton even won the MVP award in the 1977-78 season, while putting up a stat line of 18.9 points, 13.2 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks per game. but his ascending career was disrupted by a serious ankle and foot injury in the 1978 playoffs. Walton struggled to get back on the court after this until returning to play more of a sixth-man role for the 1980s Boston Celtics dynasty. Still, his career accolades, including the MVP and Finals MVP, as well as a couple of all-defensive team appearances, is a great resume. If not for the injury, though, could Walton have won more MVP awards and been the GOAT of the center position?
The first guys that was like a forward that handled the ball, can bring it up, pass, do everything like a guard. And I remember as a rookie matching up against him, he left me absolutely helpless.
Perfectly fundamentally sound. Perfect dribble, perfect pass, the way he plays, and I became a fan instantly.
Gordon was retiring and Grant Hill was coming into the league. We were talking about passing the mantle
to Grant.
Yes, you was going.
Grant Hill. After her college career at Duke University, Grant Hill seemed primed to carry this momentum into the NBA. Drafted third overall to the Detroit Pistons behind Glenn Robinson and Jason Kidd, Hill very much did live up to his billing, winning the Rookie of the Year award in the 1994-95 season and becoming one of the decade's premier scorers. Hill's prolific scoring was coupled by strong rebounding and playmaking skills, which helped him to catapult the Pistons into several playoff appearances. Hill made 4 consecutive All-Star teams to start his career and would add 3 more appearances throughout the rest of his career. An ankle injury at the end of the 1999-2000 season complicated things for Hill, who tried to play through the injury in the playoffs but only made the injury worse. While Hill was still a good player after the injury, he had huge issues staying on the court, shortening his prime and dampening his scoring numbers. After all, he put up over 25 points per game in his last fully healthy season. Without the injury, could Hill have rivaled the likes of some of the game's greats in terms of all-around ability?
Phenomenal player, athletic at the point guard position, played way above the rim, great passer, great vision.
First ballot Hall of Famer. Easily. I mean, could do everything. I know people like to compare him to Magic Johnson. They were different types.
Penny was not going to be a top 3 player. Penny got injured. Penny had knees.
Oh, you sure about that?
You say Penny could have been a top 3 player of all time because that's what Kobe is.
Yes, if he didn't get injured, yes.
Penny Hardaway. Coming out of Memphis State University, Penny Hardaway was an exciting prospect for the Magic when he was drafted in 1993, only 2 picks behind future Hall of Famer Chris Webber. Teaming up with a young Shaquille O'Neal, the Magic cruised to an NBA Finals appearance in only Hardaway's second season. Hardaway's large frame for the point guard position, scoring ability, and passing acumen made him a one-of-a-kind player. While Penny was left all alone after Shaq departed for the Los Angeles Lakers in 1996, he was still a top young scorer who looked primed for bigger things, putting up over 20 points per game on excellent efficiency the season after Shaq left. Hardaway made his 3rd consecutive All-Star appearance that season and would add a 4th the following year. A 1997 knee injury changed everything, though while Hardaway was able to return eventually, his explosiveness was considerably hampered. Penny was then limited to more of a secondary role on the Magic, and later the Suns, Knicks, and Heat, but he had not been injured. It's fair to wonder if he would have had the potential for elite scoring numbers.
You don't become an MVP by not working hard.
His rookie year, go against that nigga 7 games, proud.
I've always said that I would take him that MVP year against any point guard, since or whatever. I just think he was that special.
Seeing him in front of me, because I'm not going to lie, like that year, bro, he was untouchable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was untouchable.
And finally, at number 1, Derrick Rose. D. Rose was drafted first overall by the Chicago Bulls back in 2008. There were several other great players drafted behind him like Russell Westbrook and Kevin Love. But Rose's status as the top dog in the 2008 class was quickly cemented by a solid first 2 seasons, followed by one of the great seasons in recent NBA memory. Rose took home the MVP award in 2010 to 2011 with a stat line of 25.0 points, 7.7 assists, and 4.1 rebounds per game, leading the Bulls to the playoffs on the strength of his elite ball handling skills, playmaking, and shot making. Rose also made 3 All-Star appearances in his early career. Unfortunately, that all changed when Rose tore his ACL in the playoffs the following season, and Rose subsequently struggled to regain consistency and mobility. Rose has since had a journeyman career as a backup point guard. If he hadn't had the injury issues that he did, Rose likely would have continued his meteoric rise, torching NBA defenses and leading the Bulls back to a championship. As it is though, Rose will always be one of the game's biggest what ifs. So who's on your list of the biggest NBA what ifs? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for more exciting videos.